I've always been really passionate about sales. And so me and Sam, who you know, have always kind of joked about, look, if you're going to sell something, you might as well sell something expensive because the checks get bigger. The three most expensive things we could think of were jets, yachts, and houses. And we didn't know anything about jets or yachts, so we ended up with houses.
What's up, y'all? You're listening to the Carrot Cast podcast, the podcast with a funny name, but a big mission. We help thousands of real estate investors and agents grow rock solid mindsets, do better marketing so that you can build a business of freedom and impact. I'm your host, Trevor Mock. Let's dive into today's episode. So on this episode of the Carrot Cast, we actually talk about a topic that's never, ever been talked about on any Carrot Cast ever, which is Bitcoin. Now, it's not the focus of the podcast, but at the end of the call, Oliver Graf, my guest, and I, we talk about Bitcoin a little bit because I haven't dabbled in Bitcoin yet. He's been in Bitcoin for years. We talk about the blockchain, the future of that with NFTs is pretty cool. But the main focus on this episode that I think you guys are going to enjoy is Oliver is one of the co-founders of Big Block Realty, which is one of the fastest growing companies in America, 3-time top 50 fastest growing companies on the Inc. 500 list, the number one brokerage by volume in all of San Diego County. They have over 1,000 agents working for Big Block. And we break down Oliver's journey, how they started Big Block. They came from the investor world and went over to the retail world. And the way that they started it is very strategic and very specific to help stand out in a competitive market. This advice is going to apply to everything. The one last thing I think you're going to love is we talk about how do you bolt on different parts to your business to add more revenue and kind of what I call vertically integrate. How do you bolt on different things that you can do as a wholesaler, as a flipper, as an agent onto your business to serve your clients better and increase your revenue? I think you're going to enjoy this episode with Big Block Realty co-founder Oliver Graf. What's up, y'all? This is Trevor coming at you with an episode of the Carrot Cast where it's a special one because behind the scenes, we're also live streaming this. So if you guys want to tune into these live, make sure you're following me on Facebook and Instagram and go subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. But I've got an amazing guest with me, and I had a chance to first meet Oliver, probably 2 or 3 years ago in person, but I knew about Oliver years ago when he was in the real estate investing space primarily. But the reason I want to bring Oliver on, and I'll introduce you guys to him, is what him and his business partner, Sam, who's been on the podcast before, have built at Big Block Realty, man, is amazing. I saw the recent award you guys got as I think it was the top brokerage in, was it California or where was the location? It was the top brokerage.
Top in San Diego and then number 91 nationwide. So that was pretty cool for us to crack into the top 100. That was like a really big deal. So that was awesome.
I love it, man. So I'm going to introduce you, but before I do, one of the things I love about you guys is how creative you and Sam are in your business. So you guys have, at least before COVID, your amazing Christmas parties and just like have an amazing party there. But then you guys do cool commercials. I've seen the one with the sandwich. I've seen the other ones there. Dude, of all the wacky, awesome things you guys do to stand out, what's kind of trickles to the top for you as one of your favorite Big Block moments on the wacky, cool marketing that stands out or the events?
Yeah, we do a lot of that. One of the people that like I always followed kind of coming up in the marketing side of the business was Frank Kern and Ryan Dice and those guys and Russell Brunson. And a lot of their stuff is geared around just pattern interrupt and basically like breaking the traditional mold and doing things a little bit different in order to stand out.
Yep.
Like doing it different, but in an authentic way that's authentic to you and your brand.
Yep.
And I think that, that's been huge. Like, for example, you mentioned the holiday party every year. We rent out the cruise ship terminal in downtown San Diego. It's a giant building that holds a few thousand people. And we basically invite the entire real estate community in San Diego. And it's kind of like our way to just give back, have fun with everybody, celebrate the year. And it's grown every year. It keeps getting bigger. And I think that's pretty much the biggest venue in San Diego that we can rent. So if it gets too much bigger, I don't know what we're going to do after that.
Dude, it's that or Petco Park is next, possibly. Is it still called?
Yeah, there you go.
Still called Petco.
We'll do it under the light.
Yeah, I love it, man. So I want to give it a proper intro. And you come from the real estate investing world before this, and then we're going to dive into the story on what brought you into being, dude, one of the leading entrepreneurs in real estate, in the retail real estate space. And your guys' mission's freaking awesome. But why don't you give people who are not familiar with who Oliver Graf is, what's your backstory? What is Big Block, first of all? And we'll kind of dig into some of the cool things you guys are doing.
Sure. Yeah. So as far as the Big Block story goes, we were, like you mentioned, we were big in the investing space for a long time. It actually started, if I take one more step back, it started out of college. I kind of got right into the mortgage business. I had a few friends that were in it, and it was hot. It was like a good career to kind of get into. I've always been really passionate about sales. And so me and Sam, who have always kind of joked about, look, if you're going to sell something, you might as well sell something expensive because the checks get bigger. And the three most expensive things we could think of were jets, yachts, and houses. And we didn't know anything about jets or yachts, so we ended up with houses.
I love it.
Yeah. So from the mortgage space, we kind of saw the wave of these like really crazy loans coming. This is probably like 2005-ish. People were taking out, like, if you remember, for the people that have been around a while, the negative amortization loans, the pick-a-pay loans, the 2-year ARM loans, and just things that just seemed like good products for the people at the time, but long-term, they were just not good products. And what I think most of those lenders found is when you give people the option to pick a payment, they are naturally going to pick the lowest one, which was the negative amortization payment. So that was stacking on the balance. And so we just kind of saw it coming that, like, look, there's something up here. Like, this can't continue. Like, you can't make negative amortization payments forever and it not eventually catch up. So we started kind of researching, like, okay, well, if it were to kind of unravel, what would that look like? And that's kind of how we fell into the short sale space. So we did a lot of short sales from 2008 to about 2010. That kind of, as we all know, dried up about then when the market started to turn around. And, we were really passionate about real estate. We really had a great run, loved what we were doing, loved the people we were meeting, having great clients and great relationships. And so we decided we wanted to go in the brokerage space, but couldn't really find the right fit for us. And what I mean by that is we were like very entrepreneurial. So we didn't want a lot of, this is how you have to run your business. You have to show up to meetings. You have to do floor time. You have to do this. You have to do that. So that wasn't really our vibe. And then the other kind of vibe was like the more virtual broker. But what we found there was a big disconnect on the level of support and training. And it was very just like, don't call us, we'll call you sort of a vibe. So we just kind of figured, there's got to be a better way. Like, we wanted to really bridge the gap between that kind of like virtual tech savvy world and the traditional brick and mortar space, but not have, meetings and floor times and all the stuff that comes along with that. So we started Big Block. We also, at the time, wanted to do it a little bit differently. We liked the idea of Robert Allen. We were in masterminds with Robert Allen at the time, who wrote Multiple Streams of Income. So we just loved the idea of like recurring revenue. And we were like, this doesn't really exist in the real estate space. So we kind of tried to figure out like, how could we make it work? Would there be like a gym style membership? Would that be possible? We took that to a real estate mastermind, bounced that off all the people that were there. They actually really loved the idea, which kind of gave us like the inspiration, like, okay, maybe this isn't as crazy as we thought. So we just, at the beginning, it was just simple. It was $300 a month. You hang your license with us. We'll broker your transactions. You get 100% commission when you close. And from there, we literally just started hitting the phones and prospecting and recruiting.
Dude, so that right there, I'd heard most of that story. And the cool thing about that story that I want everyone to key into, that this is their first time hearing the startup story of Big Block in this case. Number one, this company is one of the fast growing companies in America and has been you guys were top 50 in the Inc. 500, 5,000 list for several years. Like, guys,
yeah,
top
3 years
50,
in a row. That was very exciting.
That's
as an
insane.
entrepreneur, obviously.
Dude, I mean, we've grown a good pace, and the lowest that we'd ever got was 699, and you guys were like top 100 3 years in a row, which is crazy. So the reason I brought Oliver on is because they found out a way to execute to, number one, crack through a market with a message that's different. So when we're talking with real estate investors or agents, you guys are listening to this going, well, shoot, how does this apply to me as a wholesaler or flipper, or how does it apply to me as a general agent? Well, guys, there's one of the big things that they did is they said, what is going to be fundamentally different that will stand out for our market, that will also be consistent and predictable? And for those of you who've listened to the podcast for any amount of time at all, you know how much I pound consistency and predictability. Because when you have consistency and predictability in your business, you can then have freedom. Without consistency and predictability, it's really hard to have freedom. You get stress. And so I love what you guys did there. You're like, all right, we want the recurring, we want consistency. Let's find the model that will do it. And then number two is, what is going to be our positioning to completely stand out, which is what helped you guys grow so fast. So those are things, guys, you can apply as wholesalers.
Yeah. And just to touch on that, like, we looked at, like, just back to the standing out thing. Like, we looked at all the logos that were out there, all the company names, all the everything. And we were like, we just got to be different.
Yep.
And like, in real estate, almost every company out there is blue or red.
Yep.
And so we were like, all right, we're not going blue or red. And every company almost has a house in their logo somewhere. And we're like, okay, no houses in the logo. And so, our colors are green and white, which is different. And, our logo doesn't have a house in it. Mm-hmm. And, so from the beginning, the intention was to kind of be different.
Yep. And dude, so one thing I want to dive into here in a bit is we talked about at the start of the podcast, kind of some of the creative advertising you guys do. And the one that I remember the most is this. And so if you're an agent and if you're looking for a new brokerage, or if you are looking at the cut that's getting taken out of your commission, what goes through your mind? Well, I'm tired of having people come in and take a cut of my thing. And they create this, we'll link it up. We'll go find it and link it up in the show notes on the YouTube side. But Oliver, why don't you kind of describe that ad that you guys did with the sandwich, and what kind of play did you guys get on that, man? That was one of my favorite ones, man.
Yeah. So that ad did great. It's actually still running today. So there was one of our sales guys. I got to give him a shout out, Afshin. It was his idea, and he's actually the one in the video. And the idea was, how can we illustrate, so show by example, how we're different in terms of like the commission you're going to take home at Big Block versus a traditional brokerage. And so it starts, and so we, the idea was we can use food as an example. And so he got a hot dog, a couple burritos, and a couple slices of pizza. And we went around and we asked, we gave each person got 2 slices of pizza in their hand. And then he would ask them, which one do you want? And then they would say, oh, I'll take this one. And then he would grab that one and take a couple bites out of it, put it back on their hand and say, okay, which one do you want now? And obviously they all said they want the other one now. That's still the full unbitten piece of food. And so the kind of punchline of the story was, don't let your broker take a big bite out of your commission. And that was kind of the premise of it. But it's fun. It was very different. It's definitely non-traditional in a real estate sense. And it's worked out good for us so far.
Dude, so if anyone's listening to this looking for a brokerage or changing, and are you guys out of California right now? Or are you strictly in
Yeah, we
California?
actually are franchising right now.
Oh,
So
dude, that's exciting.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah. So we got a couple locations outside of California.
Okay.
Madison, Wisconsin's already up and running.
Okay.
So yeah, we're rapidly expanding. We're always looking to grow, continue to grow. We are looking for great partners. So if anybody's interested in opening up 100% commission brokerage, I know you mentioned you have a lot of investors that listen to the show. So that's a really great bolt on. Like that's something we talk about in our mastermind that Trevor's in, closing table, is just what things can you bolt onto your business to become more profitable without adding a whole lot of extra work or brain damage. And, if you're already doing real estate in high volume, having a brokerage makes sense because you can do your own deals quicker, faster, easier, cheaper. All those things.
Dude, so I want to talk about the bolt-on concept right now, because same thing, we've got a bunch of investors and agents. And one of the main things I see with the average flipper, wholesaler, or real estate agent is in 3, 5, 6, and in agents' cases, 10, 15 years later, they're still just churning transactions. They're just hustling for that same transaction. They can never get to freedom. And one thing that you guys have done is, like the technical fancy term in the business world is vertically integrate, where you guys looked at and what Oliver said is, what else can we offer the same people that is within the same type of transaction, or you can bolt onto the business. Dude, so why don't you kind of walk through that? And this is something that can apply for everybody. Okay, if you're an investor or agent, this applies. And it might not be the exact same things Oliver bolted onto his business, but you can start to think differently and go, okay, now I can start to build my business by bolting on the right stuff. What you guys started with Big Block. Now, what does comprise of the overall umbrella?
Yeah, great question. So a mentor of ours, Roland Frazier, kind of really hits this home for us on a consistent basis. And the idea is basically, the way we look at it is there's about 83 touch points on the average real estate transaction, from a home inspection to a lender to escrow to a house cleaner, a moving truck, a yada 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 yada. So the idea is, let me look at those 83 things and let me find relationships that I can build that can offer me, maybe it's something as simple as like an affiliate fee, right? Or maybe maybe I have a decent sized brokerage and I'm farming out video marketing to another company to the tune of a few $1,000s a month. Well, at that point, it might make sense to just hire your own videographer, start an LLC or an S Corp, put them under that. Now you can sell that as a service to all the other agents in your brokerage or, people in your network. You just have another profit center. And then, again, there's 83 of those inside a real estate transaction. So really the world is your oyster. You could very easily buy a moving truck and sell that as a service. Here's a super low hanging fruit one, especially good for investors and agents, right? Like out here, especially in California, we get a ton of sun and solar is huge. Not in terms of huge like everyone has it, but huge in terms of the size of the opportunity. And most solar companies will pay like $500 to $1,000 per referral. So you could easily start a relationship with a solar company, and every transaction you close, just approach the buyer and say, hey, if you're interested in solar, there's all these tax incentives, yada, yada, yada. Here's what the payment would look like. We could easily install that for you if that's something you're interested. And then boom, you've got another profit center that vertically integrates right into your business.
Dude, I love it. So I want people to take notes here. I was at a mastermind that I run this last week, and one of the things that I presented up there was, I don't know if Jay Abraham originally came up with this, but I'm going to attribute it to him because he's the guy I've heard saying it for years, where he says there's 3 ways to grow a business. One way is to get more customers coming in the door. Way number 2 is to get those same customers paying more money per transaction. And number 3 is to get those people buying more repeatedly. So buying more than once. And when you think about it this way, the average agent or investor, they're pretty much, an agent is probably going to have someone do your recurring work with them, but it's going to be years apart, probably, from buying and selling the house, and bam, 7-8 years later, then they're going to work with them. You're getting referrals, but that client, it's years apart. Investors, dude, they're probably only working with that seller once. And every now and then you'll find a landlord who has multiple properties to sell, but that's not every day kind of a thing.
Right.
And so what I want people to start to think about, like Oliver is saying, is, well, shoot, maybe you work with the title company a lot, and every transaction is a title company. So you can bolt that on, or you can, as an agent, offer the solar part. I see a lot of agents doing the home warranties and things like that. So you're over and over again saying, I've got the same customer. Number one, how do I get them to work with me more? And then number two, how do I get them to pay more per transaction or be more valuable? It's huge.
Exactly.
Huge. And it takes the pressure off of the acquisition at that point. Like, you don't have to have as many new customers coming in. So for you guys right now, you guys have a title company, right?
No title company. We have the only reason we don't have a title company, actually, and if you've got a good offer, we're all ears, but they're really, really, really expensive to start. And so, there's a lot of compliance and a lot of legal, and it's just not a sexy space for me personally. And there's a lot of lower hanging fruit, you know what I mean? Like, stuff that we do have is transaction coordinating business. So for us, that was like a real easy integration because, as soon as we got to the point where we had like 40, 50 agents, all of a sudden we're doing more deals, the volume's starting to go up. Well, now it's real easy to just hire a TC, a transaction coordinator, bring them on salary, and then hire that service out to all of our agents at a lower price than they would pay elsewhere. And then the added benefit of they know our systems and they're well integrated. So, so that's like an easy one. An escrow company, that's something that in Southern California is pretty prevalent. Across the United States, it's not as big. Most places use title or attorneys, but there's that. Photography work, like another one for us is marketing agency, because we do have so many agents and we're doing a ton of trainings and we're always out there and, podcasts like this and stuff like that. And so we offer real estate marketing services because that's something that we needed, and we were paying a lot for it every month. And it was like, okay, let's look at that cost. And if we reposition that cost to an in-house thing, again, just start an LLC or an S Corp, and then boom, now you've got another business that you can start now selling to other people.
I love it, dude. You brought up marketing, so let's kind of make that jump right now. And you've got a big marketing background, and guys, Oliver's freaking wicked sharp on the digital marketing side of things, big time. What are you guys seeing right now with a crazy low inventory, market on the seller side? What are you guys seeing working for your agents? And I don't care what kind of marketing it is. It could be online or offline, but what are you guys kind of seeing working the best right now?
Good question. There's quite a few things that are working. I'm going to give you a shout out because the stuff that Carrot does is, to me, it's the long game and it always wins. And the people that started doing that 5 years ago are the ones that are just raking in leads like on autopilot. So what I mean by that specifically, for those that don't know, is just search engine optimization around your blog on a local either market or neighborhood or community or whatever it is that you work. That works really well. We're actually seeing a lot of like probate action, oddly enough. So having probate attorneys is a good source of business. And then there's all the other stuff. We could go on for hours on that.
Oh yeah, dude. I want to kind of bring in the investor side of things. So when we were at Closing Table a couple of years ago, you guys are working on some really kick-ass developments down in San Diego. I've been seeing the update pics. Let's kind of talk about that part, because when we talk about building a business that serves you on this podcast, which I do a lot, like how do you build a business that truly serves you? And it's hard to do that on a 100% transactional type of a job, in which that's where most agents are stuck, and that's where most investors are. And so you start to build it out. It might be buying rental properties. It could be bolting on different parts of your business or changing your business model to recurring like you guys did. But what are you guys doing on the apartment side of it in your business? And do you guys get those projects wrapped up, and kind of where are you guys with those puppies?
Yeah. So I love multifamily real estate. Let me just start by saying that. I have a good friend of mine that I actually started with in the mortgage business in 2004, 5. And he kind of put his big toe in the pool first in terms of getting a couple multifamily properties. he started with a couple fourplexes and then got the eightplex and basically just kept trading up. And then I had the opportunity to get in on a deal with him, and that deal went really great. It was basically an apartment building that we bought. We bought it for $1,050,000. It was a 30-unit building, and we raised about an extra $100,000. So it was four of us that went in on it, and just four friends that we all bought it together. And we put an extra $100,000 on top of that to just really like make it cherry right out the gate. Like we wanted to totally flip it with new roof, paved the parking lot, full paint, everything, got it really dialed in. And then, in multifamily, the name of the game is the rental income. So as soon as we overhauled the building, we did a slight increase for the tenants that were there. We started moving out the tenants that were not good tenants. We were getting like drug complaints and sex offenders and all that kind of stuff. So transitioned them out over a few months. And that process takes about a year, because as they move out, then we would flip each unit.
Gotcha.
So we would turn each unit. And then after about a year to a year and a half, call it, then we're at the point now where the building's beautiful. It's basically brand new. All the units for the most part have been overhauled. The rents have been increased to current market value. And then that's when we can go to the bank and we can refinance the project.
Yep.
And so that last one, it appraised for a lot more than we bought it for.
Cool.
We refinanced it to 65%. We got all of our money back, and we still own it and still cash flows today.
That's cool.
So then got into another deal like that, and then kind of really just got hooked on that whole like repositioning apartment buildings thing. Then we have a couple of, we're pretty big in the San Diego market, like total transaction wise. We probably close about 10% on average of the total volume every month. So we get access to a ton of deals. We see a lot of stuff, a lot of pre-market opportunities, things like that. And so we started our own fund, which now we're buying. Basically, this is more of a cash flow fund. So we're buying assets that are either done or close to done or shovel ready in terms of if we're going to do any development.
Gotcha.
But then that's like a true fund structure. And we built that to basically allow. So to take another quick step back, you were mentioning agents don't really have a retirement plan, right? So our thought was, how can we make these bigger real estate transactions more accessible to, people without millions and millions of dollars to throw around? So that's where the fund idea came in. And so the fund it's a cash flow fund. We're buying locally here in San Diego, like beautiful multifamily buildings. I'm actually literally leaving as soon as we're done to go take a look at that project.
Cool.
Because it's just about finished. So that's been great. Now that's kind of the bigger vision on what we want to keep doing. I want to keep doing the side where we're buying and redeveloping and making them beautiful, and then also just long-term cash flow, bread and butter type investments.
Dude, and that's the cool thing, right? Because you guys started with Big Block, which is your primary business. It's creating the cash flow, it's creating the growth. And then you take that and you go, okay, now where do we take those connections, the momentum, the infrastructure, and put it into something else that's going to grow as well? And so that's the big lesson with that part there, guys and gals, is I don't care if you're just now getting into real estate as an agent or an investor, have that plan in your roadmap. It could be a next year thing. Maybe it's a 2-year thing. Maybe you've got to figure out how to get listings and close deals right now, or maybe you've got to figure out how to wholesale or flip houses. But once you start to get that down, always have a next plan that's going to go, well, how do I get out of the transactional or take this cash and put it in something long-term, which you guys are doing really well. Dude, so one thing I was looking at, and this is something I haven't learned a lot about, and I'm kind of pumped to dive into this if you're cool for a few minutes, is NFTs, crypto, stuff like that. I know there's some notes that you're digging into that. You're an artist. What do you know about that world? I just saw it in some notes, but what do you know about that? Are you digging into NFTs and stuff right now?
I'm I'm honestly fascinated by the whole space. I've been in crypto since like 2017 probably. And there's just a few projects that I really am excited about, that I really love. and then to transition like what they're doing now with like turning it into NFTs and making digital collectibles and all this kind of stuff, I think is like everything's going to be digitized. Like in the next 10 years, I could easily see like someone just putting on a headset, virtually touring a house anywhere in the world, you know, applying for a loan, a decentralized loan that gets approved fast, can be transferred easily, cheap, quick, secure, most importantly. And just and seeing more of that start to evolve. You know, I really think that like we're in for like a lot of change the next couple years. And personally, I'm excited about it. Like I think the digital art space is crazy. I think digital land, virtual land in these like metaverse cities that they're building, and for most people would probably sound crazy right now, but you know, it's super cool. It's super cutting edge. I'm very fascinated by the whole space.
Dude, so I was watching this video is on YouTube from the guy. He's from India, and he's the guy who bought the $65 million NFT from Beeple. And so it was cool because number one, the guy made his money from crypto. I mean, early days. He said he put all of his money into it, and now he's a crypto billionaire. Like literally, he went from nothing to a crypto billionaire. And that was when my eyes were open to the NFT part, because he was explaining what you explained there is the interviewer was saying, what are you going to do with this thing? You know, you paid $65 million for bits and bytes in this thing that you don't even have on your wall. And he said, no, but like you were saying, said, no, what's going to happen is like Oliver described, guys and gals, there is these metaverses, these worlds that you can kind of explore. And he said, he's already having his whole, I don't know how he described it, but everything's being created right now where you can walk around and you can explore every little pixel of the thing. He said it's gonna be like 12 million pixels in this image, and you can go in there and explore every single part of it. And just the way he was describing it, I'm like, that sounds really cool. And it's going to be an experience, almost like a museum for that $65 million NFT that he bought.
100%. And what's super cool about it, and again, we might be going a little too futuristic for a lot of people, but like I could like I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. I could very easily see them being super savvy with all this stuff in the next couple of years. But to your point, like right now it already exists to where I could be like, all right, Trevor, we're going to meet in the metaverse. We're going to have our goggles on. We're going to have our avatars, and me and you are going to hang out, and we're going to go to this art gallery, and we're going to view these digital NFTs in an art gallery in a digital world with our headsets on, sitting in our living room. And that's like so crazy.
So one last question on Bitcoin, man. I have a mastermind, and I was at it this last week, and there was a handful of guys who are in Bitcoin, and they really dove in and have been crushing with, you know, Matt Andrews. Do you know Matt Andrews? Amazing dude. He's one of the most well-connected people I know. But he bought at the big dip, and when COVID hit, where it went down to like 4,000 something. And in his mind, and this is where I need to get better on my own, is I'm very, very dialed into like what I'm focused on now. And I don't really pull up to notice the trends or the opportunities in Bitcoin, NFTs, things like that. So how do you see Bitcoin, Ethereum, things like that in general moving forward? Because I think a lot of us look at it and go, shoot, it's 40, 50, 60,000 per coin. Is that too expensive? Do you feel there's a ton more runway? Are you continuing to invest in it? And if someone is looking at Bitcoin, what do we do to kind of start to dive into that?
This is almost a whole podcast in itself, and we could go crazy on this for sure. But no, it's not too late. This is very much, to me, like the bottom of the second inning. In terms of just blockchain in general, I think it's literally going to change every single part of our lives. It's going to be as big as electricity when it came out. It's going to be as big as the printing press when it came out. I am personally buying nonstop. I buy every month consistently. I don't ever plan on stopping. I think the ceiling is extremely, extremely high. I think as some of these other projects start to mature, like right now, Bitcoin and Ethereum are kind of like the big ones. I think long-term Bitcoin wins as the, safe house of your money. And I think some of these other projects are going to just go crazy in terms of, like DeFi right now, decentralized finance. You can get loans already, no credit check, no nothing, just collateralized cryptocurrency. So you put up your collateral, they'll give you a loan, no questions asked. And so, like, we're so new. Like, I would compare where we're at now to like internet in like 1996. Like we're still dialing up. You know what I mean? Like, we're still like, you've got mail. You know what I mean? Like, that's where we are now in crypto. And like, because I'm kind of the opposite in terms of like nitty gritty. Like, I'm always kind of looking out 30,000 foot view. And like, I really see the roadmap to just this stuff going crazy being like the almost guaranteed. I wouldn't say guaranteed, but I mean, it's as close to guaranteed as I'd put anything on.
Dude, so 5 more minutes. I want to break down. And this is for me, dude, because I was at the mastermind and there's so many people in crypto, and they're being sensible about it, right? They're not just going, oh, crazy, like throwing all the money in there. So 5 minutes, if you're to kind of break down the simplest way that I can get into crypto, like where do I go to buy it? Do you dollar cost average? Are you putting big chunks in? Kind of what, if we were sitting next to each other and you're like, Trevor, carve out this much money and go do the thing.
Yeah, it's funny. I just had this conversation with one of our cousins at my kid's birthday. So this is perfect timing. Basically, like, you should definitely have exposure to it, whether it's 0.1% or 20% or 50% or whatever percent you're comfortable with. It starts with buying and signing up for an exchange. That could be, the most obvious and biggest is probably Coinbase. And then there's Binance, crypto.com. There's a whole ton of other ones. But basically, you sign up, you get your bank account linked to your Coinbase account, and then you can literally transfer and start purchasing. What I like about the Coinbase exchanges is that they make it really easy to buy. You can set up reoccurring purchases. You can do daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever. So I would, and this is the same thing I told my cousins, just put your big toe in the pool, right? Set up Coinbase, go buy $100 worth of Bitcoin and just chill for a minute, right? And if it does good, then maybe in a month or two, maybe throw another $100 in there. And then eventually, as you become, you go further down the crypto journey, I like to call it, you'll just start to see that there's more out there, then, you don't want to really keep too much cash on an exchange. So you would transfer it to a cold wallet. There's lots of cold wallets you could just buy. And then you basically, it's like a USB stick that you could hold millions, if not billions, if not trillions of currency on, and it'll fit in your pocket.
Dude, so that's the one question I've had on that side of things. Like, if you think about it, if you had $1 million in cash, like $1 million in cash, number one, it'd be really hard to back around. But number two, if you had $1 million in cash here and you lost it, then your cash is gone. And that's kind of the same way that happens with that wallet too. So what do you do there to make sure you don't lose your magical wallet with all your crypto stuff in it? Can you duplicate it?
Great question. Yeah. Yes. And yes. So, every wallet that you buy or download, I mean, they have mobile phone wallets, they have desktop wallets, they have cold storage wallets, which are not connected to the internet. Those are the most hack proof. And every wallet you get, it comes with a recovery seed phrase. And that seed phrase is usually 12 or 24 words. Those 12 or 24 words are what you would use to recover your wallet. Should you lose it, it gets stolen, anything like that. So if you were to lose it, you would have your recovery key and you could still access your wallet. And then I would immediately transfer it to a different wallet.
Gotcha. Dude, this is, I could talk for another hour on this topic, man. So
me too. I love it.
I'm pumped that you're into it, and it's something I'm going to follow more. And dude, I'm going to make this commitment to you. I'm going to get my first $100 in crypto by the end of the week. So we only have like a day there. Perfect. I'm going to get it in there, and I'm just going to cross my fingers.
Screenshot so I know you did it.
I will. I'm going to send you a screenshot or text. And I'm going to cross my fingers that I don't single-handedly crash crypto and Bitcoin this next week. Well, Oliver, man, I appreciate your time, dude. I know you've got to go head out and check out the apartment progress. I'm pumped about that. And everyone listening to this, there's a couple things I want to break down. Number one, we talked about Oliver's journey with Big Block. And so we didn't even go way back into the archives of how he learned marketing and all that. Maybe that's a whole future podcast, because Oliver is an amazing marketer. Just Google them, Google Big Block. And that's part of the reason they've grown so much. Number two, if you're an agent or an investor and you're wanting to either switch brokerages or start one, and you don't want to have the brokerage taking 20% or X% out of the deal, go check out Big Block if you're in California or Wisconsin, it sounds like.
Yeah, soon to be a lot of other places. So just keep an eye out.
So either way, go to Big Block Realty, Google them up. You'll find their site. They'll tell you where you can join it. It's a monthly fee. But the thing that I've been the most impressed about with Big Block, and we have a good number of clients with Carrot that are Big Block agents, is they're not just the digital brokerage, the virtual brokerage, like Oliver had mentioned. They have physical offices, and you can go work in those offices. You have a shared community. They do workshops. You would see Sam Cramey and his business partner and Oliver always doing workshops to the agents. And you're always going to see, outside of COVID, you're going to see people in those workshops all the time. It's motivational, it's tactical, it's strategic. And so if you want to be a part of a brokerage where you get all of your commission, but you have all the resources too, and the community, and it's just cool, I would highly suggest go check out Big Block Realty and dive in there. Number two, get your first.
By the way, appreciate it.
There we go, for sure. And you didn't ask me to do it. I believe in what you guys are doing, man, and I want to keep seeing you guys grow. And number two is get into Bitcoin, get your first $100 in there, and we'll all kind of share it on Instagram together.
That's right.
And start being creative with your marketing and positioning. Guys, we need to be creative to stand out in this market. And if it means getting out of just doing the transactional and you bolt on a business or bolt on a side service, or you partner with an agent or an investor and help share those leads in some way, get creative with it and stand out. So Oliver, any parting words, man, for agents, investors out there? Could be on any topic, any parting words before we go?
No, I love it. Big fan of your show. Thank you for having me on. Also big fan of Carrot, and I know that most of the agents that are using it are winning with it big time. So that's been exciting to watch. And if anyone wants to contact me, just olivergraf.tv instead of .com, graf.tv. All my social media is on there, all my info's on there, and I'd be happy to chat, connect, and brainstorm.
Oh, dude, and you have a podcast too that I was just on. What's the podcast, and where can people find it?
Yeah, check that out. It's called Founders Club. I do a lot of interviews with real estate founders of top companies. Just recently had like Grant Cardone on, Robert Kiyosaki came on, Mike Ferry's been on. So pretty solid roster of guests, and foundersclub.tv, or just Founders Club wherever you listen to your audio or video on YouTube.
I love it. Well, Oliver, appreciate it, man. Big time. Congrats on the success. I'm just pumped to see what you guys continue to grow. And yeah, you guys need to get in other states, man, so we can pump you in other states, and you guys can help even more agents, which I know you guys are. Soon. I love it. Well, guys and gals, go find them, Big Block, and go follow Oliver as well. Go check out Founders Club podcast. It's an amazing podcast. I've been on it, and I was by far the least cool guest that he's had. He's had amazing guests on there. So go check it out, y'all. But Oliver, thank you, man. Everyone else, subscribe on YouTube, subscribe and like us, give a review on Apple Podcasts, and go follow both Oliver and I on Instagram, guys. Thank you guys very much. Have an amazing rest of the week.
Guys. See you next time.